Hi, this is Stefan Scheuermann with Tradeatomy.com. TradingMate for TradeStation is the app that we're gonna look at today. And the purpose of the app is to place and execute and even manage the trades directly on the chart. So we utilize the rectangle drawing object from TradeStation, and assuming you're planning your trade on the bonds to go long on this retracement here, you simply draw a little rectangle here, and the app reacts, made some snapping, shows you your setup here. Setup details are shown on the top here in ticks, percent, dollar, reward to risk ratio. You can of course fine-tune your setup either by changing the rectangles or with the edit trade data dialog if you want to do some fine-tuning. And after you have planned your setup, you can place trades directly from the indicator. So the indicator now suggests 4 contracts for risks that is defined as $5,000. So I would place 2 times 2 contracts here, and you have different order types here. Just for the overview, I use stop orders now. So what we have now is 4 stop market orders at 163.7, and we have also the indicator generating orders for the exits. So we have 4 limit orders here and 4 stop market orders down here, and they are linked with the entry orders. So these orders only become active once the entry order is executed. So once we have done that, we have the option to manage our trade. So if you want to trail your stop over time, or you have multiple targets and you want to have one target further up here, you can do that with drag and drop. And if you want to delete orders, you can right click and hit cancel orders. Alright, that's it for a very quick overview. The indicator has a lot of features and customization options that we're gonna cover in the following chapters, so you can make it your perfect trading mate. Alright, the first step is you go to Tradeatomy.com and you go on products. There are all the apps I offer. Amongst it is TradingMate, and I'm gonna click on learn more, and that brings you to the TradingMate details page where you can see a presentation of all the different features, and you can start the free trial from here. So you simply click the button that brings you to the Trading App Store where you can start the free trial. And there is also links to the user manual where you will find most of the information that I'm gonna talk about in this video, again in a written format for you to review. Also the input values, etc. are described in detail on this page. After you have started the free trial from the Trading App Store, the app should automatically download onto your trading platform. To double check that, you can go to Trading Apps, Trading App Store Updates, and it should appear here in the list. It will open with the demo workspace, but this is just for demo purposes. So you can simply go to any of your charts and insert it like any other analysis technique. If you use TradeStation 10, you would go to Studies, Add Study. Here on TradeStation 9.5, you go to Insert Analysis Technique, and then it will appear here on the list, and you add it to a chart like all the other indicators you have on your platform. The first thing we want to set up is the rectangle filter, and we use the rectangle drawing object from TradeStation here. So in case you work with the rectangles for other purposes like drawing resistance areas or something like that on the chart, you are able to set up filters so the indicator is not adopting every rectangle on the chart regardless. So the two properties that are important can be found in the format rectangle settings, and that's the fill color of the rectangle and the style of the line. Line means the border around the rectangle. So you can change them here, set them as default as per your requirements. Mine are, as said, red fill color and a solid style. So that means when I go to my indicator settings, I have set up the fill color filter to be red and the border style filter to be solid. Means my rectangle defaults match the filter settings, so whenever I draw a rectangle on the chart, it's gonna be adopted immediately by the indicator. So that's one option to set up the filters. You can set up your fill color filter and the border style filter to match your defaults. Another option with actually the same result would be to turn off the filters. That is done by putting a -1 for the fill color filter and to put empty quotation marks for the border style filters. Now the app adopts any rectangle regardless of its style properties. The third option is for the idea of having the indicator not adopting immediately every drawing object that we put on the chart. So we set up a fill color filter of magenta here. The border style filter we're gonna leave turned off. So what's happening now is that whenever we draw a rectangle on the chart, it's not adopted by the indicator immediately. So that could be like somebody wants to have his support area drawn here, something like that. And then in case you want to use a rectangle for trading mate, would draw your rectangle and then you change the fill color to match the filter settings. In this case now we set up magenta for a fill color filter. So you change the rectangle to match the filter, and on the next click the trading mate is gonna adopt the rectangle, and now it's part of trading mate. Now we are ready to plan our trades. So the first question that might come up is, how do I differentiate between a long trade and a short trade? And the answer is, for long trades we're gonna start to draw from the left and go to the right. So that would be entry to stop loss. If you go upwards, that's gonna be entry to profit target. So I usually plan my trades in a way that I'm gonna draw from my entry to my stop loss, and the setup is complemented by a second rectangle that represents the profit target portion. So again, we draw from the left to the right. This time we gonna draw the profit target part, and then the stop loss part is complemented by the app. For short trades, gonna do the opposite. We start drawing from the right. So again, go from my entry to my stop loss, and trading mate complements it with the profit target part, or likewise you can draw the profit target part and then trading mate complements the stop loss part. You can always change the size of the rectangles, or you can even flip it over to change the direction of the trade. So now we converted a short setup to a long setup. So if you draw it in the wrong way first, it's no issue, since you can always flip it around on the chart. Trading Mate also shows the details of a trade setup on the top right corner. So we have the entry price, profit target, the profit target from the entry price in terms of percent, in number of ticks. Then we have the stop loss price, the entry to stop loss price in percent, and the number of ticks. And then we have the profit part in dollar and the stop loss part in dollar, and we also see a reward to risk ratio here. The trade setup details can be customized, so if you go to the indicators inputs, you can set up the text position, you can have it on the bottom right, you can have it in the boxes themselves, you can change the color of the font, you can change the font size, and you can also turn on and off if you want to see the ticks and the percentage values here. There's another settings, it says show open PL. If you set that to true, it shows you a theoretical real-time open profit or loss. So in this case, our theoretical entry was at 558.87, so that means we would be 72.33 or 2% in profit at the moment. You have probably noticed that the reward to risk ratio when we draw a new setup on the chart comes up with 1. We can also change that in the settings, so if your default reward to risk ratio would be 1.75, put it in the inputs, and whenever we're gonna draw a new setup here now, it's gonna appear with a reward to risk ratio of 1.75. TradingMate does also come with a native snap mode. There is a snap mode in TradeStation in the drawing objects. I think while it works great for trend lines and other stuff, if you wanna draw rectangles, at least for the purpose we use them, it's not optimal. So what I suggest to do is to turn off the snap mode from TradeStation and use the TradingMate snap mode. The TradingMate snap mode also comes with a little animation, so we're just gonna roughly draw around this bar here, and then the snap mode animation shows me where it snapped to. The snap mode comes again with a few customization inputs, so you can specify what you want to snap to. Okay, I have set up now true high, true low, and close prices. You can use open, high, true high, low, true low, and close. And obviously you have to decide between true high or high. You cannot have them both activated, otherwise the indicator shows you an error message. And then you have snap mode percentage. This is the sensitivity value for like how close do you have to be to the prices in order to make snap mode activate. We're gonna zoom in a little bit for this. So now we have set up 10%, and actually that means 10% of the average true range from the last 20 bars. So now we got outside of this range, right? When we get closer, now we are inside the range. So I found a sweet spot with 20% in my own trading, but you can experiment with it. Set it up on a value that works fine for you. So with 20% we can probably go up here and it would still snap. For the snapping, all the bars that are within the rectangle are considered. So in this case only this bar could ever be snapped to. And if we move over here, now we have a lot of more bars that could be snapped to. And the snapping will happen to whatever values are closest to where you drop the rectangle. So we have a low of 621.12 here, and here we have 629. So if we drop it somewhere here, gonna snap to the true low of this bar because that's just closer than this one. And then with the true low and true high functionality, you can simply drop your rectangle at the low of the bar and it will automatically go to the true low. Another feature of TradingMate that can simplify your trade planning is the tick shift feature. So say we want to trade a breakout in the cotton futures here. So now we have the snap mode snapping us to the high of 89.95 cotton, and if we want to buy a few ticks above that, we can set up a tick shift for our entries. Say we have a 2 tick shift for the entries, and for the stop loss we want to work with 5 ticks. And now whenever we draw our setups and the snapping is performed, we see that also in the snap mode animation in the parentheses that a tick shift has been applied. So while the true high and the snapping happened on the 89.95, our entry will be at 97, 2 ticks above that, and we set up a tick shift for our stop loss of 5 ticks. So we are 5 ticks below the low of 87.60, which will result in our stop loss being at 87.55. And the tick shifts are always directly performed on the rectangles when you change their size. However, if you move them around like this, it's not going to be reapplied. So only when the snapping occurs, or you do something like this, then the tick shift is going to be reapplied. You can also use a negative value. So let's say you want to buy not 2 ticks above our snap 2 price, but we want to buy a little bit earlier, so we could also put in a -3. So whenever we now have a tick shift performed again to the 95 here, our entry is gonna be at 92. In order to fine-tune the trade setups, the edit trade data dialog can be used. So if you hold the Alt key on your keyboard and click on one of the rectangles, it's gonna open, and from here you can fine-tune the values of the setup. You can also have the indicator auto-calculate. So let's say you want to have a reward to risk ratio of 1, then you can either go to the stop loss, that means the profit target side will represent a reward to risk ratio of 1, and if you want the stop loss part to be adapted to the profit target part, then you would change it from here. So if you go up from here, you see that the stop loss part is decreased accordingly. And you probably also notice that the snap mode and tick shift are deactivated while you make the fine tuning, so it does not interfere with the fine tuning of your setup. The hotkey for the edit trade data dialog can be changed. I will show that in the chapter for the advanced settings. Right-clicking on one of the rectangles will open our right-click context menus, and this is where we have the majority of our features easily accessible. You can also open the edit trade data dialog from here that we just saw. You can delete rectangles from here, so the whole setup disappears. You can also delete the setups by holding the control key and clicking one of the rectangles. So it'll also delete it, and again the hotkey can be changed, and I show that in the chapter for the advanced settings. Another option that we have from the right-click context menu is the locking. So in order we do not accidentally change our setup here, we can lock it and then we can unlock it again from here. You can also select from a range of reward to risk ratios from here. So you can simply come here and say I want to have a 1.25 reward to risk ratio here. And again, like from the edit trade data dialog, it depends on which rectangle you click, and the other one will adapt accordingly. So now we say, based off our profit target, we want to have a reward to risk ratio of 2. That would make the stop loss part of the setup half the size of the profit target. And we also have the option to place our orders from here and also to activate the list view, and we're gonna look at this in the coming chapters. The trade setups can also be replicated across multiple charts. So what you need to do in order to get that, you need to activate the indicator on another chart. And you see already that the trade setup is shown on both charts, and when I change it on one side, it's gonna also change on the other chart. This does also work with different time frame charts. So if we have a 60-minute chart here, gonna have the setup appear here. Up. And the controlling parameter for the synchronization of the setups is the group, and the group is an input in our indicator settings, and when it's set to auto, it means it's simply the symbol. So that would mean cotton in this case. You can specify your own groups, and you can use the placeholder add sim to create your own groups. So you could say add sim daily, and now the setup that was priorly created in another group will disappear. It remains here, but it's not here anymore because the group here has changed, and whatever setups we draw here are not gonna appear on the other chart. However, if we create another chart with the indicator that has the same group, the symbol placeholder underscore daily, then we would see this setup again being synchronized between the two charts. Also keep in mind that the rectangle and other drawing objects in TradeStation are time range sensitive. So that means if we have a rectangle here on the daily chart and we put that too much out in the future, it cannot be replicated down to the 60-minute chart because this data just doesn't exist here. So when it goes out to the future, you can increase the space to the right setting. That might help to have more data on the right side. But the same is true for past data. So if you draw a setup somewhere back here, this data is not available on the 60-minute chart, then of course the setup cannot be shown. Alright, here we are. Finally, setup is done. We want to place our orders. And also here there is a few settings that you should be aware of and some setup that needs to be done once initially. So the first thing is we want to allow the indicator to place orders on your behalf. So you go again to the indicator settings, and on the general tab you need to consent the TradeStation security feature and enable order placement objects explicitly. Alright, that's done. The indicator is allowed to place orders, and then you also want at least check which account, in case you have multiple accounts, is assigned to the chart. And in the format account orders and position settings, also want to check on the settings and see if the orders are gonna be displayed on the chart. Right? And it's up to you if you wanna see them or not. But in case you don't see them and you wonder why, it must be activated in these settings. Okay, and now we are ready to place our orders. One more remark here, please read all the disclaimers and the user manual that you can find on tradeatomy.com for this product. And please make sure you understand everything and you have read the disclaimers and you know what orders are generated and for what account, just to make sure that you don't incur unnecessary financial losses through this application. The order placement is done from the right-click context menu. We have 5 different order types available here, and generally it shows you the number of contracts, respectively shares, and behind the number of contracts you see the risk associated with the number of contracts, of course excluding slippage. In the indicators inputs you find again settings to customize that, so you can specify a minimum number of shares. Let's say trade a minimum 5, we want to go up to 60, and we want to have that increments in steps of 5. Now that would now change the order submenu to have a minimum of 5 contracts, and then in steps of 5 we go up to 60, and again we have the associated risk with the number of contracts right behind. In order to facilitate a quick entry placement, you can also specify your trade risk. So let's say we have, based on our strategy, a single trade risk of $12,000. Then we're gonna put in 12,000 for a trade risk, and then we get a separate entry, always the first one in the list of orders, that suggests the correct number of contracts to trade in order not to exceed our position risk. TradingMate offers 5 different order types. These are stop orders, limit orders, pullback limit orders, stop and pullback orders combined, and exit only orders. Pullback orders, you can define what pullback ratios you want to work with. So there could be a pullback of 0. That would practically be a limit order on a breakout, and then you can have all different kind of ratios, can even have decimal ratios. And depending on your input in the pullback ratios, the menu does show an entry for each of the ratios that you specified. For the different order types, I again advise you to go to the online manual, where there is a list of all the order types with how they function. To give an example, for the stop order, you have a stop market order as the entry price of the setup, and only once this stop market order is filled, it has an order send order attached to it, and it will send this bracket order of a limit order at your profit target, and again a stop market order at your stop loss level. And these 2 orders again are linked with an order cancels order mechanisms. That means if one of the 2 is gonna be filled, the other one is automatically cancelled. So practically that means you place your trade and you could walk away and not bother about having to cancel any of the orders. The limit order works similar with the difference that it's a limit order instead of a stop market order for the entry. And then there are some more complicated order types that include activation rules. I would advise you to really learn about how the activation rules work in TradeStation before you use that. And if you have questions, feel free to contact me. The concept with all the order combinations and diagrams here is that you place your orders and then you actually don't have to worry about canceling or changing any of the order. An example, we gonna place an stop order here for contracts for the bonds, and we do that 2 times just to show how you could work with multiple profit targets. So the orders are placed, and what you always want to do is go to the trade manager and check if everything is alright with the way the tool has placed the orders. In order to manage our trade, now we see our orders here on the chart, and the ones that are not active are usually gray. My entry order here is blue. That again are the settings that can be made here. So you have queued orders, which are gray, open orders, etc. So what TradingMate offers you is you can drag and drop the orders. So let's say we have here 2 orders with each 4 contracts. So we could drag and drop one of our profit target orders to have multiple targets. We could also change our entry by drag and drop the entry order around, trailing our stop loss with time. And this is, by the way, available when TradingMate is active for any orders. So TradingMate does not generate its own types of orders. TradingMate is essentially creating the orders for you in TradeStation. So these orders are no different than any other orders that you would create in TradeStation. It's just that TradingMate adds the features like drag and drop them and creating this order sends order and order cancels order stuff for you. Another feature that is available from TradingMate for you is you have a right-click context menu for the order objects. So when you have the order objects here, you can also right-click them and cancel the orders. Depending on which orders you cancel, if you cancel one of the bracket orders, they are cancelled individually, but if you cancel the order that has like follow-up orders attached to it, like the stop and profit target order that I just cancelled, they are actually attached to the entry. So if you cancel the entry order, then the linked orders are removed with it together. So, but you see that on the chart and also in the trade manager. In order to get an overview of all the setups on the chart, you can use the ListView sidebar. The ListView sidebar lists you all the setups of the respective group. So you can use it to organize your setups, or the purpose I developed it for myself originally was for backtesting. So I would test a new combination of indicators or so, and then I would use TradingMate to place my setups to see how that would have turned out. And the ListView just helps organizing it. When you click on the rows, then it scrolls the chart to the respective trade. You can sort them chronologically or by any other criteria. You can also delete them directly from the ListView. And now I have put some orders on a 2-year chart, and what's likely gonna happen over time, you're gonna have setups that are out of the range of the chart, and they're gonna appear in gray here because they exist in the group. They are there, but they are not shown on the chart because they are just out of the date range of the chart. For the list view, you have an input, show list view, and if you set that to true, it would just always, when you activate the indicator, the sidebar would come up with it. Otherwise, you can always toggle it from here. So if you want to turn it on and off, always use the context menu from one of the setups, and the scroll tool can just control where the scroll is happening to. So now it would scroll to the, so the setup is on the left side of the chart. The default setting is center, so it would put this setup in the center of the chart. When you start the indicator for the first time, it's going to create a directory on your computer, and it's in your documents folder. There will be a folder called Tradeatomy, and within that you should see a folder with something with trading mate. It's probably not exactly the name that my development code has here when you have it from the App Store, but it will be something with trading mate. And if you go in there, you have all the groups here. There is the CT Daily group that we created earlier and the other auto groups. In this XML files are the data for the setups. This one has no setups in it, but for this one we created some setups in the prior chapter, and you can delete the files from here if you want to get rid of a whole group. Otherwise they are here, and even if you change the chart or you restart TradeStation, or even if TradeStation crashes, the setups are stored in the XML here, and they are restored from the XML whenever you have the group. Let's say you have the US bonds on the chart, then it will go and pull whatever setups are in this file. And now to the advanced settings. There is one file in this folder that's called settings.xml, and here we have our two shortcuts for the delete and the edit trade data dialog. And here you can change the shortcuts. You have available Control, Alt and Shift as options, and you can combine them up to 2 with the plus sign. So you could say it must be Control plus Shift simultaneously pressed on the keyboard in order to delete a setup. And let's say we want Alt plus Control in order to show the edit price data dialog, and we save this file. And now we have to restart the indicator, and we have some setups from earlier here, so we now want to delete this setup and we hold Control. That doesn't work anymore, so we specified we need to hold Control and Shift together, and that's gonna be the new shortcut for the delete. Likewise for the edit trade data dialog, keeping Alt key pressed doesn't open that anymore. Need to keep Control and Alt pressed at the same time, and then it comes up. In case you would want to restore the default settings file because you might have typed something in here that is problematic or doesn't work anymore, you can simply delete the whole file, and then the next time you restart the indicator creates a new settings file with the default settings that you had in the beginning. This new way of saving the trade setup data and files on the computer does not only allow us to have the global trade setups to share it across different charts, it would also allow, say, a power user with multiple TradeStation installations on different computers to have these setups be shared across computers, like across TradeStation installations. So that would mean if this folder is synchronized with another computer, you would also get your setups on the other computer. Thank you for your interest in TradingMate. If you have open questions or feature requests, you can send them to me at steffen@tradeatomy.com, and also feel free to visit my website tradeatomy.com and check out my other apps. Take care and always good trades.